Select Committee. I am Riona Zaman and I chair this committee. The Youth Select Committee was established in the autumn of 2023 in order to give young people in the Isle of Man the opportunity to scrutinise government policy. We sit here today as the second iteration of the committee. After talking to our peers, we decided to examine the educational, vocational and developmental opportunities available on Ireland to young people leaving secondary or higher education. This afternoon we will be first hearing from Junior Achievement Isle of Man. Please ensure that any mobile phones are turned off or on silent so that we do not have any interruptions. For the purposes of Hansard, I will be ensuring that we do not have two people speaking at once. With me today are the other members of the committee, who I will ask to introduce themselves now.
My name's Alex.
My name's Jasper.
I'm Scarlett.
My name is Jeffro Comish. Could you please give us some detail about what employability skills workshops or services are offered by Junior Achievement?
Okay, so we are the island's largest children's charity. We work with 5,000 young people in education across primary and secondary schools. And just under a year and a half ago, we launched the Just the Job website, which is the first jobs website aimed at getting young people employment on the Isle of Man. We focus on three core areas. That's financial literacy, so making young people understand money management. We also do entrepreneurial skills, which is where if you want to start your own business, and then we focus on, I don't like the term, but soft skills. So it's the skills that you would need in any job, such as team working, organisational skills, presentation skills, just a general transferable skills that you would take into the workplace.
All right. Just to be more precise, what is the age range of those targeted by these services?
Okay, so our programmes in school, we go from year 6 to year 13. So once you leave education, we don't offer programmes after that because that's when UCM and other organisations step in. But the Just the Job platform is open to anyone from 14 upwards. So we're helping a whole range of young people find work.
Right. Does JA offer any services to help young people with enterprise, such as starting a business or becoming self-employed after education?
No, our focus is primarily on the Year 12 programme, which is where you get the chance to set up on your own business for the course of an academic year. And the idea of that is you can do a taster session in school in a safe environment. We actually work with the Department for Enterprise to reduce the business startup scheme from 18 to 16 years. So any young person that might want to leave education at 16 could also start their own business, but the company programme really is the underlying programme that gives you those types of skills. It'll give you a kind of an idea whether you actually want to go into your own business or not.
Is any support offered for students who may wish to continue to develop their products or businesses following their education?
Absolutely. If they want to develop we'd love them to do that. That's the aim, really. And so we have a really good network of businesses on the Isle of Man that would step in and help if people wanted to continue with their business. But what we found is when you're in year 12, you're focusing on your A-level studies. So the business that you may have generated in year 12 goes to the back burner while you go off and do your A-levels. But we have created a few entrepreneurs on the Isle of Man that have gone on and set their own business, but not necessarily with the idea they came up with originally. They've gone on to do something completely different.
Right, thank you. I'll pass you over to one of my colleagues now.
So my questions are about the collaboration with the Isle of Man government. Obviously you've touched briefly on the Department of Enterprise and the startup scheme, but have you collaborated at all with the Department of Education, Sport and Culture at all?
So DESC supports Junior Achievement financially. They give us a grant each year. And we look at the curriculum and look at where those gaps are within the curriculum for skills education, and we work closely with that department, but we are a non-governmental organisation. Junior Achievement is totally independent from any government body, so the aim of our charity is to do what's best for young people on the Isle of Man and what the economy is telling us as what's needed, but we do have close contact with the department. One of the things we recently did was which Julia will go into more detail about, is we have noticed a trend where there are no jobs for people under the age of 16, or very few jobs. And so we lobbied the government to try and get the employment legislation changed for young people, because employers are telling us it's too difficult to employ young people. And so my understanding is that DESC is reviewing that employment legislation at the moment so that we can try and get more young people jobs in the Isle of Man now that work experience has been stopped at year 10.
Thank you. So you've mentioned that DESC provide your grant, so I won't, unless you have anything else to add about any funding you receive from the government.
No, that's the only funding that we get.
Just to go on then, what changes do you think you would like to see as a charity from the government to better support your mission and your aim?
I think that we have got a very complex world that we're living in the moment, in particularly with the introduction of AI, which I think is going to impact jobs significantly. Junior Achievement is a worldwide organisation, so we are working with 20 million young people across the globe, and I'm able to see what's going on in other countries. So, for example, in Estonia, they've recently introduced AI into every school. To some extent, we're a bit behind the curve, I think, and I think if I had my way, we'd be putting more business education on the curriculum, because it's as important as academic education.
Thank you. That's all from me, I think, unless anyone has anything to add.
No further comment.
Yeah. Is that you? Yeah.
What's the motivation for starting Just the Job, and what needs does it address for young people?
I'll talk about the motivation, you can talk about the needs. Is that okay?
Okay,
So I'll talk about the motivation first, and then
talk about how it started out.
So we did a big piece of research with 300 young people on the Isle of Man, aged 17 to 24. I think it was 2020, and we got some really interesting information. They were all educated on the Isle of Man, all went to the six high schools. 75% of those young people not going to university told us they felt like second-class citizens, and not enough was being done to find them work on the Isle of Man. They didn't know where to go for jobs on the Isle of Man, because if they went to the job centre, they felt it was flooded with recruitment agency vacancies and they couldn't find the type of role that they wanted. Over 85% of young people told us that if they didn't understand the job description, they wouldn't apply for the job. And so that was some of the key motivators. And so we spent a year and a half trying to get funding to launch the first jobs platform specifically for 14 upwards, and that's when the Z0 Foundation gave us the funding to do that. And I'll pass over to Julia, because Julia actually runs the jobs platform.
Okay, so Just the Job, as Sue explained, launched spring last year. So it's been gradually developing over the last 18 months. The platform is designed to offer a number of things for young people. So the sort of main area is its jobs board, which we advertise local vacancies for local employers. We generally add anywhere between 100 and 120 jobs a month to that site, for what's active that month. It's kept very up to date. There is tools and tips on the website as well. So there's an extremely good professional CV builder which helps young people put in their information. It gives them tips about what information should be there, and at the end of it, it produces a very professional looking CV which they can either apply for jobs through our site very easily, or it saves it. It's not branded in any way, shape or form, and they can use it in a PDF format to apply for any other jobs. The beauty of this is that it's available from any device, so it's not reliant on mum's laptop, or if they're away travelling or anything else, they can pick it up, they can amend it, they can take duplicates of it, and they can send it from wherever. Then there is also then the practical side of things. There's interview tips, there's details of job application letters, there's also information on the industries on the Isle of Man and the types of jobs that you see in those industries and what those jobs normally entail. We also offer practical support by offering drop-in sessions within the office, and we also do public events where we offer drop-ins, and we also generally encourage local employers who support young people and generally who have a vacancy at that time to attend those functions with us. And we also attend things like careers evenings, events at the college, and anything else that's promoting vacancies or job opportunities for young people.
I think it's fair to say we've probably helped over 200 young people or more find jobs through the website, and possibly more than that, so since it launched.
Just going on to the services that you have on your website, do you think that each of these services are being well used by young people? What's the reception you're seeing in each of the services?
Well, I can give you some figures, so just to give you some idea of how it's built in the last 12 months. So to give you some idea, first of all, on the number of jobs listed, if I was to take from our launch, which was around about March, April time last year, to the end of last year, the number of jobs listed was just under 500. The year to date, we have listed 1,400 jobs in this from January to now. Our application numbers have increased dramatically, and also the number of visits to our website has increased. So if you were to take the 12 months to the end of December last year, we had 114,000 page views of our website. To date this year, we have had 262,000 in comparison to the 114 last year. So I think it's quite clear that the site is developing and it's growing and it is well used.
I think I just want to say at this point is that what's disappointing for us is the lack of vacancies for 16 and under. It's probably at 1% of that figure. And we really do need to be creating job opportunities for young people on the Isle of Man to start as early as possible, one, to earn money, but two, to get the skills that employers are looking for.
Do you see like the vacancies that you're putting up there, they are getting filled, and how quickly do they get filled?
Sometimes it's difficult because the system, the way it works, it's obviously for data protection and what have you. We don't necessarily see everything, and we're subject to employers feeding back or the candidates feeding us back, because we obviously don't work like an agency. But we do see that some of the jobs are getting filled. We do see that some don't, and they come back on again. It is very disappointing, the under 16s, and when we see a job for under 16, they get filled usually within the first 24 hours of going on live, and it's not unusual for companies to receive over 70 applications for something that's for under 16s. There is also not a huge amount of jobs advertised also for the 16 to 18-year-olds. A lot of the jobs are still asking for experience, or have perhaps left it open for the 16, 17-year-olds to apply, but unfortunately they seem to struggle to get a start if they are up against older candidates that are applying.
Thank you.
Thank you. What ages are using this service?
So the service is aimed at the 14 to 25-year-old bracket, and that is the predominance of our people that use it. We do have some older people use it, and that tends to be those that are maybe career changers, so people who have either started off in something and then decided they've matured a little bit and changed direction, or something's happened, or they're returning to work after having children. So we do have a few older people who do follow the site and do apply for roles. The majority of the roles that the older people apply for tend to be governmental roles rather than the other roles that are advertised, but the predominance, I would say at least 80%, is between the 14 and 25-year-old bracket.
I think that's driven by the types of jobs that we're advertising, because that's the jobs that we're promoting, probably the first or second job that you would go into. We're not putting the more technical jobs on the website.
Do you think the rise in minimum wage has impacted on the number of jobs available to under 18s?
I think it's at the moment, it's obviously still a little bit where it's going ahead. But yes, I think the minimum wage is impacting because we are seeing the salary of those people who are not minimum wage hasn't increased an awful lot. So the gap between the lower end and that sort of semi-skilled or unskilled people is getting closer. And so you know, for somebody who is maybe 17 and almost 18, and if you've got a company who I've got somebody at 25, they are generally going that way. So I think it is making it harder for the younger people. Other jurisdictions often stagger that gap of the minimum wage, where it goes up sort of from the 18 to 20 and then the 20 to 22, or the where it goes up in sort of steps up to the age of 25. So I think it is impacting, and it is also impacting on things like apprenticeships and that type of thing as well.
Which jurisdictions?
UK for one, they've always had, you know, in previous times they've always had this a sort of a stepping where the minimum wage from 18 has a little bit of a step up. Without looking it up, I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but I'm aware that the UK has had that.
We do think that apprenticeships will be severely impacted. That's our feeling, because on the site you can advertise any type of vacancy, you can advertise volunteering, you can advertise apprenticeships. We've made it really, really open, and we know that a lot of smaller businesses are not taking apprentices on because they can't afford to pay a full salary when the person is not qualified or able to do the job.
And also they're attending education at part that time as well, so they are paying for that. And then because there is a shortfall of qualified young people, because if you look at building, you know, if you look at, for example, the building trade, a lot of the people that are on site are now over the age of 35, and there's a gap between that 20-year-old and that 35-year-old. So as a consequence, the other issue is that as a young person, you'd maybe do 3-4 years training, and that's probably the time also that you're a bit fed up and want to move on. So the problem is a lot of these companies train you, spend a lot of money training you, and as soon as you become useful, you can go and get a bit more money from somewhere else. So you easy move, and you know, they lose you.
What are the key sectors that tend to do well, and what sectors do you think lacks?
I think on job-wise at the moment, the stuff that's coming through, I am disappointed actually by the number of vacancies available within the financial services for young people. I've been working for Just a Job for about a year, and I have been disappointed by actually the level of vacancies that come through. They seem to advertise a lot more now for staff with some experience, whereas previously you would have seen a lot more jobs that did say suitable for a school leaver or indicate that they were prepared to train, and some of these jobs do indicate that, but from what I can see with who are getting the jobs, they are still favouring people who are a little bit older and have a little bit more experience, and there doesn't seem to be the same support for young people as a general rule.
So I think the sectors that are doing well, or I mean, that may change when the minimum wage comes in, but we're seeing a lot of vacancies from hospitality and retail and smaller organisations. For the younger market, that is, not necessarily for the older market.
How is Junior Achievement marketing the website, and how successful has engagement been so far?
Most of our marketing is done through social media, and to be fair, I think our development of how many people are using our site indicates that our marketing is working well. We obviously aim to market at younger people, so that has meant us, I suppose, going a little bit out of our comfort zone to make sure that we keep our content very up to date and very young in its approach, and very where the young people are going. So we do lots of work with Instagram, and the Isle of Man has quite a good Facebook following for young people, considering that's not really the biggest platform in UK. It's much bigger over here, but I think that's because we have a lot more local groups and what have you that put it together.
We've got LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, we'd also do LinkedIn, and you know, so we're quite active. We do promotions every couple of days on jobs that are in. We have a regular slot where we have what we call our Friday favourites. We have a What's Hot this week. We also have a Job of the Week, and then we might also run something that is interesting. So, for example, today we've done an extra promotion because we've had a vacancy come through from a auto body workshop that is looking for 3 trainees in 3 different disciplines, and so that has gone out as a special promotion today because of the nature of the vacancy.
I think the other thing that works well is every time somebody gets a job through our website, if they allow us to, and not everyone's comfortable, we'll feature them on our socials and they get a backpack and a mug to say that they've got a job. And we're giving promotion then to show people how many people are getting work through the site. But it's worth noting that this site's completely free of charge. So there's no charge to the employer and there's no charge to the end user either.
Okay, so I'd like to ask, what do you see as the benefit of having young people in the workplace?
Oh, well, I'll speak from personal experience within junior achievement. Usually when a young person comes into work for junior achievement, I will straight away hone in on their skills. So in particular, they're usually way ahead of the curve when it comes to technical things, especially socials would be one, just general interests. And so if I've got a job, for example, we've got someone who does all our social media and marketing, I try and use their skills for the benefit of the charity. It's a role that tends to, every 2 years, that person will leave because they're very creative and so we'll move on to a different role. But we've had some brilliant young people in, just their mindset. And given that what we're doing as an organisation, it's really important we stay in touch with our target market. So I think having young people, it's important. I've got a problem in the island with people, an ageing demographic, which means we're going to have, there's lots of people in jobs in the 50 age group at the moment. As Julie was alluding to, things like your electricians and your plumbers and everything else, there's going to be massive gaps because there's nobody coming through and filling these roles. We've got an ageing workforce, so we have to do something to keep young people on the Isle of Man and to make sure the opportunities are here for them.
And what do you think that would be then?
I think the number one problem is housing. For young people trying to get on the housing ladder, I do not envy you. I've got a son in his 30s who's struggling. The cost of property, and so I think it's 2 things. It's possibly housing is one, and the second thing is the job opportunities, making sure there's career progression for young people and those opportunities as well.
What do you think are the biggest challenges in connecting young people with employers for work experience?
Okay, so work experience has been stopped at year 10. That's my understanding. And I think it happened post-COVID because employers couldn't take young people on during that period for obvious reasons, and it never really was put back in place. There used to be an organisation set up called PDMS that would run the whole work experience programme. Now my understanding is the onus is on the teachers to do all of that. Putting somebody into work experience placement is quite complex because there's a lot of paperwork that needs to be completed. And if you've got 1,000 students across a year group, that's a massive amount of work. Personally, I think it needs to be done by an external organisation that's set up and geared up just to manage work experience. I think we are doing our young people a disservice by not offering that, because if we've got no work experience and they're not going into the job market until they're 18, how are they supposed to get the skills they need to get a job? And a lot of people I speak to, it was their work experience that helped them make their mind up as to what they may do in the future.
And earlier you were saying that most of the vacancies do want young people to have work experience. Mm-hmm. So what support do you believe needs to be implemented to help young people post-education looking to go and find a job?
I think it's more has to be done in education as opposed to post-education. I think that the thing that Junior Achievement has, which is different to most organisations, is a network of employers and organisations that work with us. So the fact that we take business volunteers into schools gives you that first connectivity. We're doing what we can. Obviously, just the job is one step forward, but I can't really speak for any other organisations. Have you got any feelings on that?
Well, I think, as Sue's pointed out, I think the lack lack of work experience is quite key here, because when they are in education, the one thing about work experience is it does start to give them attitude for general life, and it takes that away. It goes from being where you're at school to put you in a professional position where you have to mature, and you take on work routines a bit differently to how it is in the school environment. And the more access these young people have to that, the more it gives them the confidence and the key skills that are these soft transferable skills that get them through not just getting a job, but also getting through interviews for university, part-time jobs while they're at university to help fund what they're doing. All of these skills are key, and it starts off with work experience, and then it then goes to them being able to get a job either during their education to be part-time, because even a hospitality job where you're working as a front of house does teach people about getting to work on time, teaches them customer care skills, it teaches them to deal with conflict, difficult situations, how to deal with those sort of things on a professional manner, and being in that work environment and having to be there at a certain time. So I think work experience, whether it be through the school or something that they're doing out of school, is extremely important to gain the very basic skills that we all have and we all take forward to jobs.
It's almost too late after education, I think. I think more needs to be done while you're in education.
So would you believe that the result of lack of employment for young people and the available jobs would be due to the removal of mandatory work experience?
I think it's a combination of things. I think the removal of jobs for young people is down to our belief is down to employment legislation. Now, when we say that, we've spoken to employers to ask them why they're not taking young people on. And one is lack of experience, and two is because of the legislation that sits around employing a young person. Now, we're not sure whether that's because the employer doesn't understand the employment legislation or whether they just think it's too complicated. So it's a combination of both: no work experience, no skills to take to the employer, but also the fact that they don't want the hassle. They don't want the hassle of completing extra paperwork that goes with employing somebody under the age of 16.
So the hour restrictions also restricts work experience for young people. So if I was to give you a bit of an example, we deal with a gentleman who has a fish and chip shop, not in Douglas, and he employs and likes to employ young people. He likes to give them an opportunity. However, on an evening, if they are under 16, they can only work 2 hours if it is a school day followed by a school day. If that person is having to travel to his premises to work, to turn up for 2 hours, to then for mum to drop off, for mum to pick up, because these people are obviously too young to drive, sensibly, it's too difficult for that person to sensibly work it in with family and work. And sensibly, he then needs to employ 2 people, because one has to do 2 hours and then maybe another does 2 hours. Whereas sensibly, if it was stretched to 3, it would help cover that busy period without having to make business decisions around it.
And just very quickly, what the other one is breaks. So in the UK, you can work, I think it's 4 hours before you get a break. In the Isle of Man, after 2 hours, you have to have a break. Now, if you've got a restaurant full of 100 people, and it's your busiest time as a business, and at 2 hours you've got to go for a break. It's not feasible. As long as you get a break, that's the key thing within a set period. But to be that prescriptive is what's stopping businesses taking young people on.
So you support the removal of certain regulations concerning...
Yeah, not so much removal, because we want young people to be protected. That's the key thing here, is making sure that you're not... But the problem that you've got is, I don't know if I dare say this, is there are companies that are employing young people and not necessarily following the legislation that we don't know about. The companies you'd like to work for are not actually employing those young people because it's too onerous. So it's just having a bit of flexibility, really. If you've got a quieter period, that's when someone goes for a break, not when your restaurant's full of 100 customers and they need to be served.
Okay, so sorry, we're just running out of time.
That's okay.
To finish, if you could pinpoint one thing, what do you believe, in your opinion, is the biggest challenge young people face in gaining employment on Ireland today?
It's a good question, isn't it? I think it's lack of opportunities.
Yeah, I would say lack of opportunities.
That would be the number one.
And there's quite a lot of competition for certain jobs at certain levels. So it can be quite difficult for them to get started. I think also a lot of companies are not good at keeping the candidates in contact, and so it is quite soul destroying for these young people. It really damages their confidence because they don't get feedback from employers, which unfortunately is not something we can do a huge amount about. We do try and encourage it, but it is difficult when businesses are under pressure and they don't have systems where they can have a sort of typical HR system to follow it up readily.
Unfortunately, that's all we have time for
That's
today.
okay.
Thank you very much for your time, and the committee will now sit in private. Good afternoon and welcome back to this public meeting of the Youth Select Committee. I'm Riona Zaman and I chair this committee. We will now be hearing from representatives of the University College Isle of Man. Please ensure that any mobile phones are turned off or on silent so that we do not have any interruptions. For those purposes of Hansard, I will be ensuring that we do not have two people speaking at once. With me today are the other members of the committee who I will now ask to introduce themselves.
My name's Alex.
My name's Jasper.
I'm Scarlett.
My name's Jeffro.
Now firstly, could you please introduce yourselves and your role?
My name's Jo Richardson. I'm the Vice Principal for Curriculum and Quality at University College Isle of Man.
And Gail Corrin, Higher Education Manager at UCM.
Nice to meet you guys. So I'm just going to start off with questions regarding apprenticeships. So what apprenticeship courses are offered at UCM at present?
Could I just clarify something about apprenticeships? UCM doesn't offer any apprenticeships. What we do is work with employers to offer the curriculum side of the apprenticeship that a young person or somebody of any age can actually undertake. So while we promote apprenticeships, what we're doing is supporting employers in promoting those apprenticeships. We do have a very, very wide range. A lot of them are in construction and engineering. Those are the ones more people seem to be familiar with. But we also have apprenticeships in IT. We have apprenticeships in business. You can have an apprenticeship in anything you like, as long as an employer is prepared to support somebody to work, earning money, and also gain a qualification at the same time.
Okay, so that's slightly relevant to my next question. So does UCM support students in gaining placements with local businesses, or is this something expected of them to do independently?
It is expected that young people will do this independently. A lot of people do it through contacts, and I believe the career service can help. So formally, UCM does not help you find an employer, but informally, there are some staff who do have contacts, and if a young person comes in, they can give them the information. But it is not a formal system at all. UCM does not drive apprenticeships.
Okay, thank you. And how supportive have you found employers to be with offering apprenticeships and working with young people?
It's really heartening, actually, because every few years a new industry will come along and want to offer an apprenticeship to people, an industry that hadn't really thought about it before. We've got quite a lot in hospitality who are doing the catering side. They're doing the chef's work. They're doing apprenticeships. We have hairdressing and beauty therapy apprenticeships as well. I'm trying to think the newest one we have. I think the newest one we had was a business admin apprenticeship. We have been discussing business apprenticeships as well with a few of the local employers, although that hasn't quite materialised yet.
Okay, thank you. And would you mind going into detail about how places on apprenticeship schemes are allocated?
Most of our provision, there is not an issue at all. If you've got an apprenticeship, you've got an employer, you'll have a place on the course. There is one exception, and that one's the electrician's course, where we are limited with our resources. So in order to be successful to gain a place on that course, would be about meeting the entry requirements in terms of qualifications, and also evidence that you have an employer prepared to support you. So the first 14 people who prove both those things will get a place on the course.
Okay, thank you. And how do you promote these different courses to students in high school?
We have various methods. Obviously, we have our social media and we have our website, but we also have taster days with every year 11, although I think we're moving to year 10 as well. So every year 10/11 would have an opportunity to come to UCM for a day to see what some of our course provisions like and to experience life as a student, if you like. We also have an open evening once a year in November. It's actually tomorrow night, where anyone, although we do target years 11, 12 and 13, anyone from any member of the public is welcome to come along to UCM and find out. You can have a tour around the building, you can speak to subject specialists, or just have a look generally at our facilities and get more advice about funding and things like that.
Okay, thank you. And would you say that there are a lack of willing businesses to offer apprenticeships, and do you think anything can be done to help change
I think
this?
it will always be nice for there to be more. I think learning and earning is a great way for young people to develop their own skills and also develop those work-life skills. It's also better if they're not getting into debt as well. You can do an apprenticeship in anything, as I said, and not all apprenticeships are run through UCM as well. Some private training providers also do the qualification side to apprenticeships. I think there's no limit. If there's a course that we do and an employer that wants somebody developing in that, then there's no reason why we can't offer an apprenticeship.
Okay, thank you. And that's just relevant to the next question. What options are being explored for new trades where apprenticeships could be offered? I know you did mention that if anyone finds one, they can have one, but do you think there's more that UCM could do regarding new trades?
Again, I think it needs to be driven by the employers. We can put some provision on, but unless the employers really want to employ somebody to develop those skills, it's not really something we should be doing, because it might not work out, might not develop any fruition. So we have to be quite careful, because of course it is taxpayers' money at the end of the day, careful what we're actually doing, what we're investing in.
Okay, and my last question before I pass on to Jethro is, why has gas engineering been removed as an apprenticeship course?
It was never an apprenticeship course, gas engineering. Plumbing do have some of the work with gas, but they had to do an extra test, an extra assessment, and the awarding body didn't think that the throughput of students at UCM was enough for them to keep approving the facility we were using for testing.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Jethro?
All right. How does UCM prepare its outgoing students for employment or higher education?
I'll take the employment side and you can take the higher education side, if that's all right.
No worries, it's fine.
We have a pact at UCM that every single full-time student has the opportunity to have at least 3 encounters with the world of work. For some of them it's great because it's work experience, but we can't do that with every single course that we have. So the students have to have, as I said, these 3 experiences, and it might be they might go and visit an organisation, have a look around it, talk to the staff there, and we get visiting guest speakers coming in and talking to students as well. We are more likely to find work experience options for the higher level students, so our level 3 students, that's the A-level equivalent, than the level 1 or 2, but we do try and get as many students out on work experience as we possibly can. H.E.?
Yeah, I think just to add to Joe there, work experience and work placements and opportunities to be exposed to work is actually at the heart of the way we, all of our curriculum. With our degree courses in particular, level 3 courses, which as Joe said are the equivalent to A-levels, they're really the heart of the college. That's where most of our students are. And so we promote, obviously, our own degree courses with those level 3 courses. And in fact, one of the things that we are constantly trying to do is show really clear progression routes. So, you know, our business level 3 courses and our IT level 3 courses are very popular, very full, and they tend to then progress on to our business management degree, our cybersecurity degree, or computer science degree. So we look for obvious progression pathways as much as possible in terms of promoting our higher education. But in terms of sixth forms, I spend a lot of time in sixth forms talking about the UCM degree offer, the open evenings that we've talked about. We attend the HE Fair at Ballacameen along with other off-island institutions. So we have a good working relationship with the heads of sixth form in terms of the island offer. But I'm sure all of you around the table know the kind of the draw of studying off-island is quite strong for some students, no matter what the courses we offer are. It's something that, you know, the university experience is about leaving the island, not necessarily staying on the island. So, you know, we're aware of that. We're not naive about that. But we believe the courses we do, which are not as many, but obviously not as many as a large university, but by goodness me, they work good. They're solid courses. Yeah.
Right. What work experience opportunities are given to your students at all levels of study? Are these arranged and supported by UCM?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll start with HE and we can work there.
Yeah.
With all our degree courses, there is actually a compulsory module in their second year, which involves them, as of next year, it'll be a 40 credit module for those of you familiar with university modules, which means they'll be actually out on placement for about 200 hours. That's a significant experience. They do a project which is both a personal development around their employability skills but also around their technical skills. So in all of our degrees there's a significant focus on placements in the second year. And an interesting what tends to happen, to be honest, is that when you get to your final year and you're doing your dissertation, a lot of our students connect their dissertation or research project with the placement that they were involved in level 5, and that's something that works really well, I think, on the island.
Do you think that
I think they were going to...
Sorry, I was going to talk about some of our other courses. Some of the curriculum we offer has mandatory work placement, so we have to make sure we find those for students. So, for example, our health and social care students spend a lot of time in Manx Care. I don't know if any of you have ever seen the stripes walking around Nobles Hospital if you've been in there, but those are UCM students doing their work placements there. And so there's other courses where they have to have a work placement. So some of the IT students at level 3 all go out on work placement, so they're getting a feel for the industry. We do struggle with some of our courses, though, getting the right work placements. Sorry.
Do you think there is anything that can be done to help provide a university feel and keep young people on the island?
Gosh, something we've mulled over for a long time, I have to say. One of the challenges we have is numbers. So you can imagine, I'm sure you've been to campuses in the UK, and we're talking thousands and thousands of degree students, and that is not where we'll ever be. So there's that constant tension of viability around numbers of students, numbers of courses that could then create the feel that I think you're talking about. So what we tend to, well, we don't tend to, what we actually say about our courses is that if you're interested in staying on island, if you're interested in perhaps starting your career on the island, if you're wanting to really focus on getting yourself a good grade, perhaps not being challenged by the cost of going off island, the UCM's a really good option for you. I mean, our results year in, year out are higher than the UK average. So, you know, if it's not for everybody, but if you do choose it, there are advantages. So rather than saying we're going to make ourselves look like a university, like one across, it's probably just not something we can pull off with our size. So we promote different qualities.
All right, that's understood. Do you think... I've got another question from one of my colleagues. Specifically regarding things such as regards my previous question, specifically regarding things such as shared social settings or societies, from my own experience in UCM, there did not seem to be much in that regard besides the library. And I think there's a knitting club which they offered, but I don't think that's particularly popular among my age.
No, and again, it's a real challenge, and I think it's one we need to keep looking at. What our students tell us, this is at HE level, is that most of those, because they are on island, they are already in their hockey club, their whatever their recreation, whatever their society, whatever it is, they're already doing that through their connections, through existing friends and family. So we have had a number of attempts to create societies, but you know, you're right, we need to not give up on it. It's just that we find most students seem to have a life established separate to their studies, I think.
Yeah, that goes for FE as well as HE students. Yes, a lot of them do. And we tend to think of the whole island as our campus at UCM, so we should be encouraging this. We should be supporting people who want to play for their local club or who want to take part in sing in a local choir, rather than us trying to mimic it and then maybe spread it too thinly.
Perhaps greater promotion of those clubs at UCM.
No, you're right. You're right. The challenges, yeah.
Do any of you have any further inquiries for me to make? Anyway, so moving on to the final of my questions. Do you think that better opportunities for work experience at school would allow for greater surety in which academic or career route is taken by young people?
I'm sure they would. It would be an advantage, but I think schools have the same difficulty we have, finding the employers that are willing to take students, and particularly students under 16. I think it's a little bit more problematic than it is when they reach 16. So I do understand from an employer point of view how difficult it can be, and we do everything we can to try and get our students in work experience, and it would benefit any student at 14, 15 to be able to go and have that opportunity, but it's not always possible.
Right, I'll pass over to one of my colleagues now.
So in October this year, UCM announced a series of new courses to begin in the upcoming academic year. Why were these courses chosen? New degree courses or new other courses? Were they just unclear? Yeah, degree courses.
So the one that's new this year, that's actually started this year, is our Applied Social Sciences course. Now, there's a number of ways that we consider new curriculum with our degree courses. One is, as you might expect, just inquiries. You know, we think there's a lot of people asking. But the other thing is that we look at the data around students that go to the UK and what subjects they're studying. And so, but quite significantly, a lot of students leave the island to study psychology. For us to deliver a psychology degree is is quite a challenge because it requires at least a certain number of chartered psychologists. It's quite an extensive thing to set up, and again we bump into viability then about a number of students. So we decided we would go for applied social sciences, which has the 3 core social sciences of psychology, sociology and criminology. So that we're covering, we in one course, we're covering as many people's interests as we can, which is a bit of an approach that we take. And we had more applications for this course than we've ever had for any other higher education course. So hopefully we've hit a spot there. And what we're doing, we're redesigning a lot of our, well, not redesigning, we're revalidating our partner is Chester University, as you might know, and we're looking at a lot of our courses their content's being redesigned, and the structure of the modules are being redesigned to reflect more contemporary content within those subject areas. So that's what's happening as well. And we're launching some brand new sports degrees in September 27. But probably, if we're being really direct, we're not necessarily looking to have loads and loads of degree courses. We're looking to have a suite of courses that year in, year out attract good students and meet the needs of the students and also the island's economy. So we're looking to create courses that can do, it's not about having hundreds of choices, it's about having good choices that meet the needs of the island students and the economy.
Would you like to talk about our new master's courses as well?
Well, we have got this wonderful progress for masters. We offer masters courses through, it's a work-based framework or professional development framework. And you can negotiate your own master's pathway, or we've got some packaged master's pathways. So we've got a master's in sustainable business practices, in leadership practice and in business entrepreneurship. The really neat thing about these is that they all involve significant placements. So we're talking 3-month placements in a relevant host agency where you undertake a research project for the purpose of academic credit. So you're actually getting the best of both worlds. You're getting academic recognition for your master's course, but you're also getting your foot in the door in employment and in the industry. Yeah.
And do you think these courses align with the emerging economic opportunities or employment sectors on the island?
Yeah, we hope so. We've done everything we can for that to be a hard yes. Understanding the skills of the present, never mind the future world of work, is quite a challenge, as I'm sure we all know. So a lot of our courses, as you might expect, also focus on those more generic skills of critical thinking, critical evaluation, social intelligence, all those sorts of things, because actually the way we learn now is quite different. Knowledge is everywhere, so being able to facilitate access to learning is more important than being the sage on the stage, as an expression we use in education. So we're hoping the courses are flexible and adaptable with some core elements that will allow us and the students to do just exactly what you asked. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you decide when to retire a course? What do you consider?
We look at applications, but not just applications. We have to look at what we call enrolments as well. So we're not part of UCAS, because we sit outside the jurisdiction of the Office of Students and Ofsted, so we can't be part of UCAS. So students can apply for courses in the UK through UCAS, and they can apply for us as an extra, if you like. And what we find is that a lot of people do that, but when the time comes, they don't necessarily enrol with us. They decide to go to the UK. So our numbers, we often have interesting courses, but when it comes to actually who wants to do our courses, that's probably where we look at in terms of deciding their viability.
And just to hypothetical scenarios, would you ever consider maybe offering accommodation for students and accepting UK student applications?
Yeah. Well, we do accept international applications at the moment. In reality, mostly they come from people who have some connection with the island, have a family member here, or not universally. And the topic of accommodation comes up often. It's always been considered, but again, it's a viability issue in terms of cost of investment into a suitable student accommodation and all the pastoral care that goes around that. Yeah.
Okay, and just to finish off, in your opinion, what do you think the biggest challenge is for young people in gaining employment?
And I actually went and spoke to some of our student services team at UCM before coming here this evening, and to find out from them what the students are telling me the concerns are. And lack of maths and English does seem to be a bit of a barrier. So fortunately you can do maths and English without any charge at UCM. We need as many people as possible, obviously, to gain the maths and English skills to help with their employment. There was also a feeling from students that employers didn't always respond to applications. So they could be waiting to hear back and not hear anything at all, and feel that they were waiting for a response, therefore they weren't applying for another one. So we're trying to encourage students to just keep on applying and not expect a response from all the employers. Some are very good, by the way, some employers do respond, but some don't tend to respond, which might be the quantity of applications, I don't know. And the other thing that we found with students was they're not really confident enough in their own skills. So it's about us looking at our curriculum and making sure that we can give them that level of confidence that they've got to go and apply for that job. Because often they come in at 16 and they're a little bit nervous. They may never have worked before, and it's helping them, guiding them towards finding the right job for them.
If I could just add from a degree graduate's perspective, we have a really good percentage of employment in a relevant sector coming out of graduating from a degree. But one of the challenges we have on the island is what our students tell us are what they call middle graduate level jobs. So jobs are often what you might call entry level or quite senior, and the number of opportunities for what in other countries would be graduate level coming in, so they call them middle jobs. There aren't as many on the island, so I think for degree graduates that's a bit of a challenge, is accepting that they might have to start at a level lower than they might perhaps anticipated. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for your time, and the committee will now sit in private.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome back to this public meeting of the Youth Select Committee. I'm Riona Zaman and I chair this committee. We will now be hearing from the Isle of Man Chamber of Commerce. Please ensure that any mobile phones are turned off or on silent so that we do not have any interruptions. For the purposes of Hansard, I will be ensuring that we do not have two people speaking at once. With me today are other members of the committee who I will now ask to introduce themselves.
My name's Alex.
My name's Jasper.
And I'm Scarlett.
Now could you please introduce yourself and your role?
Yes, I'm Kelley Corlett and I am the skills lead for the Isle of Man Chamber of Commerce.
So the Chamber of Commerce is an advocate and champion for business with a focus on creating a climate of growth and success in our community. Do you believe that work experience, apprenticeships and on-island training opportunities are important to the growth and success of young people in our community?
100%. So these are not optional extras for our island's youth, not at all. They're a foundation for future-ready workforce. So work experience is more than a week in an office somewhere or a week in an environment somewhere where you're left photocopying or shadowing someone. That's very inactive. You're not developing your skills, so it should be a really rich experience. So anything that we can do around advocating for work experience, 100% behind. Apprenticeships on island, again, where you've got a structured pathway that you can earn and learn, and developing those workplace skills, absolutely, very important. In the UK, they've reviewed their skills and education, and what they're looking at and what they've proposed very, very recently is that, in fact, we look at work experience opportunities from year 7 onwards. So much earlier than what we do on the Isle of Man. In fact, we don't have a clear structure in the Isle of Man.
So, in your opinion, it should be offered as part of education?
Yes. Yes. What we should be doing is partnering more with industry. So this is where Chamber can be a conduit for those conversations and relationships. So industry with education will actually make a great partnership for those opportunities where there's structure. So right through the education system that we've got industry walking side by side, creating those opportunities, looking at how we can impose those standards and making sure that it's fair and equitable, that everybody has an opportunity to have work experience that is valuable and enriching for them.
Have any work streams around post-education opportunity for young people been undertaken by the Chamber?
So what we've been doing is we've been partnering very closely with government. So there is an Isle of Man Skills Board, which I sit on, with Rebecca George, who is the CEO of Chamber, and a third Chamber person. So we sit alongside Treasury Minister on there, we've got Education Minister on there, we've got Enterprise, as well as a number of their officers with an independent chair. Now, what we do is, as Chamber, we bring industry voice into that forum. So we know direct from industry where their skills gaps are, where the opportunities are, so that we can inform so that the right pathways, the right direction and the right support and interventions are put into place.
How do you think the Isle of Man government could create further opportunities on island for young adults to be trained in sectors where we are currently seeing shortages in skilled workers?
Beautiful question. So this is around data. So what we need to understand is where are those gaps, as well as what opportunities there are for us partnering with industry to fill those gaps. So not just the work experience, not just apprenticeships, but looking at how do we adapt education at many levels, and this can be from primary right through. I know UCM have a great programme, a lot of their courses incorporate work experience, but we've got a huge gap before that. So what we can do is we can look at how we can model, how we can transform education and how we can make it much more open for anyone on island to stay here, to develop those skills and become a real part of the economy and contributing to it on island. Not everybody can afford to go to university. Not everybody wants to go to university. So we really need to create those opportunities on island so that it is fair and equitable for all. So that's where we can come in to create those conversations, to nurture that and to provide the data. So what we've been doing in Chamber is we've done employer surveys, and they've told us where the gaps are, where they're challenged in recruitment. So we know exactly where those opportunities are. We have also been working with an individual who has got labour market information, which tells us exactly where we are now and tells us where and what AI is going to do to the future of work on island. And that is mapped against skills in UK and mapped against the skills framework in America. So that with white papers, that informs here's what's going to transform and be different around the future of work, and it's imminent. We know where there are gaps, things like finance, things like some manufacturing, things like customer service, those administrative roles. We know they are going to be absolutely transformed as a result of AI and the changing pace of work.
Thank you. At present, only those wishing to enter the workforce after leaving education are supported with work experience opportunities by school. One reason given by the Department of Education, Sport and Culture for this limited cohort is that after the COVID pandemic, many businesses were no longer willing to offer placements, emphasis on the private sector. In the Chamber submission, it was suggested that we should consider the introduction of work experience from Year 7 in line with the UK policy.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's important for work experience to start at a younger age? What benefits does this have for both young people and businesses?
So work experience at a young age, what that does is it gives our youth population real world experience of this is what work now feels like. It was interesting. Yesterday I was talking to a couple of students who are currently at UCM, and they were chatting about there is a new system in place where they've got to use a pass to get through the doors, and it can be quite irritating because the pass might be at the bottom of your bag and all sorts. And what I was explaining to them is actually that's preparing you for the world of work. You cannot get through, you cannot print, you cannot get through certain doors, your access is restricted unless you've got your pass, which is not something they had ever thought about. So when you introduce young people to opportunities early, they can start shaping their understanding of what it means to work. So what I mean by that is the human skills around problem solving, around communication, around teamwork, around innovation, creativity. They're unique to us as humans. We know that AI is transforming the way we work. So it will do a lot of the boring, repetitive stuff, which means it allows us to be even more human. So giving young people the opportunity to stress test that, feel that, see what that looks like for them, to identify what do they enjoy about any of those skills. So now they can start shaping what their future looks like. So it's that employability, you're dialing your employability up earlier.
So would you agree with the Department of Education that the reason why work experience opportunities are limited after COVID is due to the private sector and the fact that many businesses are no longer willing to offer placements?
I don't know that that is the sole answer as to why it's not an opportunity now. I know plenty of organisations who are very willing and do indeed work closely with the careers team and create opportunities for work experience and so on, and provide mentorship, etc. So I think that is a very black and white statement that I'm not entirely convinced is completely true.
So would you agree that there is a reluctance to reintroduce the pre-existing work experience scheme?
A reluctance for whom?
From the department.
From the department, potentially. Potentially. I'm not in government, so I don't know. I can't answer on their behalf. What it feels like is that we have an opportunity for real change now. We know the world of work is transforming at a very rapid pace. And if we don't lean into the opportunity to make this different now, we are going to be very much behind. And we are going to have cohorts of students left on a pile going, I can't get a job, I can't get into a course, I can't, whatever. Their future potential will be inhibited. So what I would say is there's opportunity for more meaningful partnerships. We know the solutions. If we work together, and what I mean by that is that's industry, that's education, that's government. If we work together, then absolutely we can transform what education provides, what industry partners with, and then those opportunities as a result.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, just moving on. In a submission made to our committee, it was written that the Chamber strongly supports a more diverse apprenticeship landscape on the island. Where do you believe there is a shortage in training or apprenticeship opportunities for young people? And could you please explain why you believe there is a shortage in those sectors?
Certainly. So I've recently had access to labour market information data. This was data that was pulled together by an independent party, so not government, independent party, who did a Freedom of Information request to access skills on island. So what jobs do we currently have? Overlaid that with what the future of work looks like. So there's been a paper from Deloitte, from KPMG. There's been quite a few big white papers on future of work. So overlaying all of that with the current jobs that exist, I know that 49% of jobs on the Isle of Man will be transformed as a result of AI. Now, what that means is some of those roles will be augmented. So it'll be some AI will do some of that job, which will free the individual in that role to do other stuff. That could be more exciting project work, whatever it is. Also within that population, there is some jobs that will no longer exist. So we can already see that there are redundancies being made across the finance sector, for example. We can see redundancies have been made very recently across e-gaming sector, for example. Some manufacturing as well. So we know where there are job losses. We know where their roles will be augmented with AI or replaced by AI. So we've got a lot of data that's very relevant to us. So having that will then give us that North Star, if you like, of where to invest in the right apprenticeships, the right opportunities, and the right next steps for our young population.
I was just going to kind of touch on that as I understand it's hard to summarise, but with the emerging use of AI, how do you think that we could best prepare the younger population to be prepared for the use of AI and the risk of automation and the expense relative to hiring a younger workforce?
Yeah, I think it's a really exciting opportunity, and I think what we can do differently is that, and it's a word I keep using, is augment, because AI will augment us as humans in the workforce. So there has been an awful lot of fear-mongering about AI is going to take your jobs and young people can't get into the world of work. They can with the right support. And that comes with that, I suppose, holy trinity of government, education and industry working very close partnership, like a task force to move forward. So creating the right opportunities to enhance those unique human skills. So the problem solving, the communication. We know these are the number one skills that employers are looking for now. So it links right back to work experience and those kind of opportunities at a very early age, where we've got young people developing those and understanding those skills for themselves. So that's what dials up employability. Not your certificate, not your A-level, not your degree. It's the employability is dialed up because you've got that humanness. You can problem solve. You can work as part of a team. So thinking about how we assess knowledge at the minute, it's antiquated. So we've got an old system evaluating in an old way that does not mirror and match the future of work. In fact, the current standard of what you need to be able to work. So if we go to something that is more project-based, so you are naturally, as in a project, you're working as part of a team. You will have leaders emerging within that team. You will have people leaning into their preferences. When you strengthen your strengths, there is a huge power in that. You enjoy your learning now. So if we're assessing knowledge by projects and those bite-sized ways of incorporating what you're doing with how you're learning, then we're taking massive box to your employability.
Thank you. Sorry, this is just to go back to before.
Yep.
Do you think there's any large skills gaps at present? And if so, in which sectors?
So now the interesting thing about skills is it crosses multiple sectors. And I think that's when you're talking about employability, it's a very broad term. When you're talking about skills, you're talking, again, more broad. So if you want to talk about sectors, then yes, we can look at hospitality, so the customer service side of things. So you will have AI bots being able to answer the questions and answer the phones and things like that. So what do you do then with the people who previously have been in those roles? If you look at finance, so AI is really good at patterns, at repetition, at systems, standardizing things. They're really good at that. It's rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. So what we need is to develop that humanness in all of us so that those individuals going into, if they want to go into finance or if they do want to go into a service industry, that they understand what the AI is doing, but they're sitting above that because they're making better decisions, they're informing. So it's about that ethical approach to using AI. It's around giving it structures and systems that works for the consumer as well as the individual in that workforce. I hope that's answered.
Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
So just to finish,
Sure.
we would like to ask you what you think, in your opinion, is the biggest challenge that young people face in gaining employment.
I think the biggest challenge right now is that lack of exposure for that work experience. I think that's the biggest challenge right now. I would love to give young people more information about what the opportunities are on the island. I would like that to be a throughput so that they understand where those gaps are, where their skills are, where they enjoy leaning into, so that they can identify their future potential. And also to help young people understand, don't focus on what job do I want in the future. So stop thinking in a linear way. It's think more broadly. What skills have I got and where do I want to apply them? Because now you can straddle multiple sectors and that opens up huge potential. And all of that can happen here on Island.
Is that, sorry, go on. Is that a part that you see Chamber playing in connecting like businesses to the department, or do you just mean in general?
No, absolutely. Chamber, we can very much be at the forefront of that. We can work with industry to help them understand what good looks like in terms of opportunities for young people, whether that be apprenticeships, whether that be work experience structure, whether that be mentoring. We've got an older workforce who have many years of experience of problem solving and team working and leadership and all of those things. Now, those people retire, then what happens with all of that? So creating opportunities where we can mentor young people going into the world of work so they can stress test that knowledge, where they can, you know, wear that whatever hat to understand and lean in. I think we can bring relationships, and it is those relationships, we can bring that much closer. We're a small island. We can be really agile. We can leapfrog what they're doing in the UK, Ireland, America. Absolutely. So we can turn this round much more rapidly than we believe we can at the minute. And I think that's where a skills task force comes in, where we can move much more agile and make this transformation work.
Thank you.
Okay, unfortunately that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for coming in, and the committee will now sit in private.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.